this coming Monday. Good afternoon and welcome to the City Club of Portland's Friday Forum. City Club is where civic-minded people come together to make Portland and Oregon a better place for everyone to live, work, and play. I'm Greg McPherson, president of City Club. Members and guests are gathered today at the Sentinel Hotel, along with all of you listening or watching on OPB Radio, Portland Community Media, or YouTube. The generous support of City Club's corporate and media partners enables us to put on the state's best civic programs week after week. Our media partner is Oregon Business Magazine. Our current Friday Forum sponsors are AARP of Oregon, McKinley-Irvin, Iberdrola Renewables, Airbnb, and Uber. Please join me in showing our appreciation for all of them. Next week's Friday Forum will feature storytellers as part of Telebration, a 33-nation festival of storytelling as an art form. Please join us for what is sure to be a fun program. You can learn more about City Club events, purchase tickets, and become a member on our website, pdxcityclub.org. As always, we will be live tweeting today's program. You can follow along and join the conversation using the name @PDXCityClub and the hashtag PDXViolence. Later in today's program, our moderator will facilitate a Q&A session with those here in the live audience. Asking questions at the microphone is a benefit of City Club membership, but anyone here at the Sentinel Hotel may write a question on one of the index cards found at the center of the tables. Hold the card up and City Club staff will collect them before or during the Q&A session. And now for today's program. On October 1st, 10 people died in a mass shooting in Roseburg, Oregon, a terrible tragedy that riveted the attention of the nation. But just 36 hours later, 3 people were killed in Portland with hardly any media attention and no public outcry. And this past Wednesday, Portland saw its 28th homicide of the year. The attempted murder rate has quadrupled over the past 10 years. This increase in violence in our community is deeply troubling. We are here today to listen to each other, to share experiences, and to raise attention and awareness. We hope to continue and expand the community conversation about the reasons for rising violence and what can be done to reduce it. Our panel today includes Arthur Davis, an ex-gang member who now works in Portland's African American community to persuade young men not to join gangs or to leave them after becoming involved. Erin Fairchild is director of the Defending Childhood Initiative for Multnomah County and a specialist in childhood exposure to violence. Joining them is our moderator, Antoinette Edwards, the director of the Office of Youth Violence Prevention at the City of Portland. Midway through the program, we will hear a recorded monologue by artist and actor Daniel Beatty. Kimberly Dixon, a mother who lost her son to violence, and Michael Alexander, former president of the Urban League of Portland, will join the conversation before we move to Q&A. Please join me in welcoming today's panel to Friday Forum.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, City Club and community. We are so grateful for this opportunity to share a personal perspective and a deeper narrative to the violence that begets violence. But we really want to talk about the social injustice and inequity that fuels it. Today, our hope is that I have many, many friends here in terms of partnership. The old song, make new friends but keep the old. I'm hoping to get new friends, gain new friends and allies in this work because we all need each other. So with that, I'm going to begin by asking Arthur to share a bit about his story. You've already heard about the statistics. Over 169 GVRTs cases, 12 homicides, 1 suicide. Police have confiscated probably 117 firearms and close to 1,000 rounds. We're here today because this is a crisis, that there's hope, that together we will make a difference. I'm leaning on you. Can I lean on you? All right, now we can work this. Arthur.
How y'all doing this afternoon? That's good, that's good. I just want to thank you guys for having me up here, able to share my story, and I appreciate you guys for listening. First of all, my name is Arthur Davis. I'm an ex-gang member. I was born in gangs. My father was the beginning of the gangs back in the 80s, and I never really had no positive role models to look up to, so of course I fell into those footsteps. And with the work I'm doing now, I mainly want to work with children because it starts there with the kids. You know, when they're growing up, they get to see negative things, they see positive things, and it's on us adults in the community to show them how to be positive, to go on the right route. And since then, I've been doing a lot of speeches with kids. I've been visiting schools. I go to recreational centers, mostly Charles Jordan in North Portland because that's where I was raised at. And the things that I need from the people in the community is just support, like meetings like this, people, everybody showing up, not just sometime, and people to actually show actions instead of speaking. You know, you can tell a person anything, but it's all in the actions. It's all in the actions. And man, I'm proud to be here. I'm happy to be able to share my story, meet new people. That's probably about it. About how I lost my father? Touchy subject. Okay, I lost my father to gangs in 1990. He was 18 years old, I was 2, so I never really knew him. And so growing up, I felt like I needed to get revenge for his death. And I never knew that it would bring me down to a path where it's like I'm facing the same demons and struggles that he was facing. And so I wasn't around people to give me the positive side about him. All I heard was the negative. And as a child, that's you go use a follower. When you're a child, you follow. There's no getting around it. And so as I got older, I had kids. I lost a lot of friends. I've been to prison. And I just noticed that it was a time for a change. Like I want something better for my child. I don't want my son to go through the same struggles I went through because it'll break me. And so after that, I just show him all the good things, you know, read to him, teach him, show my daughter how a man is supposed to treat a woman, and just be the positive role model I didn't have in my life. Thank you.
And we will hear more from Arthur. Thank you, Arthur. Erin, will you introduce yourself and share?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. First, I just want to say it's such an honor to share the stage with both of you and to be learning together. And also thank all of you for being here to hear about this issue. So I direct a program called Defending Childhood Initiative that is based out of the Multnomah County Domestic Violence Coordination Office. And the work of our program really focuses on how all types of violence are connected and looks at the impact of what happens when children are exposed to violence in childhood. And it's actually not rocket science. We know that hurt people hurt people. right? And we know that actually the risk factors for multiple types of violence are very similar. And so I'm so excited that we're having this conversation today and really thinking in particular about how experiences with poverty and racism intersect and often fuel the risk factors that lead both to violence perpetration and to violence victimhood. So really wanting to look at how experiences in childhood and who you have access to, like Arthur spoke so eloquently about, can shape your experience. So thank you for having us here and for listening.
And Arthur, I'd like to ask you, the challenges you shared being in the gang, what are the challenges of getting out of the gang lifestyle?
The challenges of getting out, well, you know a lot of your friends not gonna like it. They not gonna agree with it. They go think like you a punk, you a sucker, you leaving, like. But the more important thing is, I've learned that a real friend is gonna wanna see you do better, and not gonna wanna see you go down the wrong path. A real friend is gonna wanna see you be there for your children. You know, like if you out gangbanging, how you gonna be there for your kids? How you gonna support your family? So then you gotta lean on someone else to support your kids, and 9 times out of 10, it's gonna be the same person that was in the life that you're in, and they might not be ready to get out. And so then your child grows up and he's in gangs. You might be in prison or dead. You don't know what's going on with your child. And so those are mostly the challenges. And just still witnessing stuff, still witnessing killings, still losing friends. And it's hard, but my mind is made up and I'm not turning back.
That's a hand clap. Erin, you spoke briefly about the challenges of risk factors. Can you share a bit about the trauma?
Right, so we know that when kids are exposed to violence and stress, toxic stress in childhood, it's not surprising that it's traumatic, right? And when children are consistently exposed to trauma, it has an impact on the way that we develop, the way that our brains develop, and the way that we see our place in the world. And I think that's really important to this conversation, is that lots of children who are exposed to trauma end up sometimes developing a worldview that bad things just keep happening no matter what I do. And when you start adding stressors like poverty, if that's an issue for children, if you start adding issues of really the fallout of racism, which really poverty is connected to that, and all of the sort of structural impacts that can happen, it's stress upon stress upon stress. And so a lot of times children and youth start to have a feeling that, man, I'm trying really hard and nothing's changing because bad stuff just keeps happening to me. And it kind of leads to this feeling of, well, I don't have a lot of power over the world around me. Whatever I do, things keep happening to me. And so we know that when kids are having that experience, they need access to as many safe, nurturing adults as possible. And one of the ways that they have that ideally is in their families. And if it's not in their family, we know that it happens at school. We want it to happen at school. And that's what's so important to this conversation, is thinking about how does the push out of children of color in our school system impact who they have access to. So that's where we're sort of looking holistically at defending childhood, at kind of taking ownership of very complex problems and how we involve community and all of us together in solving them. It's like peeling back layers of an onion, a very complicated onion.
It can be tearful. Mm-hmm. Arthur, can you share a bit about your experience? I know when you've talked at many engagements, we've asked you your experience with law enforcement and how that has been, and how does that play into this issue of violence?
My experience with law enforcement. Well, as a kid and as a as a teenager, it was always negative, and it's not because of the officers. It was because of me. But I blame the officers then. But now, the man that I am now, I can take responsibility for my wrongdoings. And so I know at times I was in the wrong. You know, police officers have a right to do whatever they feel that they need to do for their safety. But now my relationship with officers is, it's good. You know, they seeing that I'm doing something different. Like they always told me, you got to turn around. Even when they was taking me to jail, like, Arch, you got to turn around. They talking to me while I'm in the backseat in handcuffs. You know, and just a lot of people listen to me. I got a lot of followers, a lot of friends that look up to me. And then doing the positive thing, I think that it's gonna work. I think I'm gonna get a lot of people to follow me. Yep.
I think you're good, and I'm just going to share a bit, something that happened. You were so concerned about where you live, and for Halloween, that you sponsored something really special for young people, and I just want to share that because real men do things like that. Can you share what you did?
Despite all the violence that's been going on, for Halloween, instead of trick-or-treating, because there's been so many shootings and killings, I got a big suite, a hotel room at the Red Lion, and I invited everybody on my Facebook page to bring their kids, come party. We had candy, we had music, we had piñatas, I had extra bags for kids, extra costumes, we played games, we bobbed for apples, we had fun, I had fun. I don't know, I love kids, always like kids, and I just want to see the children all in all of Oregon, like, do better, because that's where it starts. It starts with the children.
Thank you for that. We can clap. Erin, I'm going to ask you about a project that you're a part of, and just briefly before doing that, I just want to look out at the audience, and for your benefit, Radio Land. I used to listen to Gunsmoke on the radio. I'm dating myself, but I digress. There are many partners in this room. Grateful for Black male achievement, grateful for law enforcement, the partnerships, grateful for Portland Public Schools, and many, many others, a county, city, collaborative, and community folks that are asking what can they do. So I just want to let you know the people are in this room that are doing this work. And Erin, if you could speak to the summit that we're really excited about in that collaboration.
So a part of the work of Defending Childhood is trying to bring as much resiliency and empowerment to communities as possible, because I think listening to Arthur, I think, Arthur is a solution, right, to a complex problem. And I actually remember something that will stick with me forever, doing some work with a man who had been in prison for gang involvement, and he said, and I'll never forget, he said, everyone sees all of us as the problem, and I'm sitting here in prison, and no one is tapping into me as a solution, because I have influence and power over my community, and I have ideas, and I want to help. So really remembering that people who live through violence know what they need. They have the answers. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that I think that's, when I think about protective factors, I think about what Arthur did for his community and friends on Halloween. That's a protective factor. We need more of that for more kids. And so in that spirit, we have been partnering with a lot of great stakeholders and community members to bring a first annual summit on community empowerment through African American men's healing. And the work of that summit arises out of some work that's already been done in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And we're really wanting to look at how experiences with historical trauma and racism and poverty and childhood exposure to violence all come together to present a lot of barriers. It creates a pretty uneven playing field. So we're hoping we can come together with community members and providers and really learn from each other and think about what the solutions are and where is there hope to all of these complex issues. Where is the hope that Arthur has been able to tap into?
Thank you. Arthur, I want to ask you your perspective when I'm working with community members and the homicide scene and dealing with the loss with family members of the homicide. And as you're aware of, that snitch code. How do we unpack that? If many of you have heard snitch, let's change that narrative. That's what today is about, changing the narratives of some perspectives. Snitch, somebody needs information that could help. What is your perspective on the snitch code and how can we unpack that?
I honestly don't think that there's no way to unpack that, because for gangs, they already have their beliefs, and the snitching, the tattletelling, whatever you want to call it, it's basically, it's a no-no. Even though it's going on, you might have some people that'll definitely cooperate, but I don't think that everybody would be willing to do it. So it's hard. It's gonna be hard to to solve these unsolved murders. Some people are scared to be on black and white, And then you got those that actually want to change and don't care. See, or it's because my mom, my auntie, they always be like, well, if something happened, I'm going to the police. And I don't look at them as snitching. I look at them as good Samaritans. That's what I call them, as good Samaritans to me, because you doing your job. And so, but besides that, on the gang level, I don't think we'll ever get by that. So it'd be hard to actually try to go speak to young people that are still active gang members and try to get them to be good Samaritans.
Thank you for that. And that the conversation, more of that about prevention. As Frederick Douglass shared, it's easier to develop a strong child than to repair a weak mind or man. So what I'm thinking of, prevention, intervention, how do we work in those areas to support people? The bullying, the tattling, somebody, don't be a tattletale. We have the power to change that narrative. If some people have that made up mind, for the innocent folks, and you've often heard it said, our silence is killing us. How do we empower people to become witnesses, and as you shared, good Samaritans? I'd like to ask you, Arthur, you're doing good. When you're having those challenging times with your friends, and you've shared some of them, say, right on, man, you're doing a good job, how do you deal with the haters?
With the haters? I mean, you just got to deal with them, because there's going to be people that don't agree with you. Like I argue with a lot of my friends every day. I argue with my brothers every day, you know, because they're still in the life, and I'm trying to stir them to something different. So it's on them. You can only give advice to a person. It's on them in order to take that advice. Like if a person want to change, it's up to them to quit change. It's up to them to change. If you want to quit smoking, it's up to you to quit smoking. You can go to all these classes, but it's all right here. It's all here. And so yeah, I argue with my friends and my brothers a lot about them making changes, and I feel like as long as I'm putting that in their ear, as long as I'm putting that in their head, I'm definitely doing my job. And honestly, that's all I can do, is like give them the positive advice, show them the steps they need to take, because I'm an older brother. I'm older than all my siblings. I got 9 siblings, and I'm the oldest. And it's like, I'm pretty sure we all grown, but it's like you still got that big brother. You still look up to your big brother. And so I gotta go in the path so that they'll see me moving in the positive directions. Hopefully, they'll follow.
And a follow-up. Looking out at this audience, some people you know, and some folks, City Club, we're so glad we're here again. Some folks that have never been this close to a ex-gang member. Thank you for smiling. What do you want them to know so they'll keep smiling? What do you want them to know about you and how they can help?
How they can help? Just to support me. You know, people telling me how proud of me they are. That helps more than anything, because it's people actually seeing what I'm doing and actually paying attention to what I'm doing, and not just saying, oh, he's an ex-gang member, whatever he's playing. But I'm actually about what I'm speaking about, and I'm actually about change, and I love work. I just like working with kids. You know, adults, they listen, but they already know so much. They think they know everything, just like myself once upon a time. I was there in my life, and I know now that I can still learn from people, but it's like the children, you can teach them so much, and it could be the wrong things or it can be the right things, and I want to teach them the right things.
Thank you. We're going to change this a bit. OPB. If you just tuned in, and I hope you did, we're going to watch a short film, and we'll be right back with you. And if you just tuned in, you're here with Arthur Davis, Erin Fairchild, and a huge group of great folks. Thank you.
You tell me to pull up my pants, pull down my hoodie, and watch the words I speak. The roots of this system are poisoned, and you focusing on a leaf? I understand that witnessing my breakdown brings tears to your eyes. But I'm crying too. Can you hear me? There are reasons for my demise. Maybe, just maybe, I call my boy my nigga, because we out here living like slaves. And maybe I act so angry, because that's how the forgotten always behaves. These projects are our plantation, and rage at our condition keeps us in chains. Why don't you Harriet Tubman us to freedom instead of shaming us for our pain? Because our underground railroad, it's been derailed and we stranded without a ride. How am I supposed to be a man with no father as a guide? Most children learn how to behave from what they see their parents do, and a history untold repeats itself. So is some of the blame on you? All of a sudden, just out of nowhere, there's a generation of lost black boys? No. The systematic destruction of a people is loud. It makes a lot of noise. Why didn't you hear our screams when hopelessness caught us in its net? They've thrown us in the belly of this ghetto slave ship and told us to forget our hopes, our dreams, any vision of a better life. We've been captured, and our middle passage is rife with the stench of poverty. Horrific screams of self-doubt. They've chained our hearts and minds. Is it any wonder we can't find our way out? Create a search party. Come find us, because we are desperate to be found. How do we escape to freedom? Because we agree that we are bound. How do we say no to the Jim Crow of these prisons everywhere? Because most of us are going there, but most folks don't seem to care. How did you organize before to obtain our civil rights? Because we need a revolution now. Teach us the right way to fight, because we've been fighting all our lives. We just weren't given the right tools. Most of us want to learn, but have you seen the state of these so-called schools? A lost black boy speaks. Will you hear my cry? Or will you just continue to live your lives while day after day we die?
And I really want to thank him again. I gave a phone call and said, may we please use this? And he says, yes, by all means. Right now, I'd like to ask Kimberly Dixon to share a bit, and then next to her, Felicia will share a Portland story. Thank you.
Good afternoon, City Club. Thank you again so much for this opportunity, Miss Antoinette, always lovely. So my story is one in which my son, Andreas Dixon, was killed in Gresham, June 9th, 2013. The rest of his siblings and I were playing kickball at Alberta Park, and we had just concluded the game. We'd been wondering why he hadn't showed up yet, and then we got a call. The words, "Andreas has been shot," still ring through my head. It's like an echo that never shuts off. To hear that your child, the one that you carried for 42 weeks, the one filled with hope and potential, your coconut, a mirror of yourself, your Keakamai, the intelligent one. This is not true. I'm going to wake up. This is just a dream. Until I arrive on scene, caution tape separates me from my flesh and blood. That's my reality. My reality is one of my 10 children is no longer here with me. My reality is that someone did not value his life, did not value their own life. Their solution to a temporary problem was permanent. This is not a video game. Nobody gets back up again. Shots fired throughout our city, and somehow we all have to wake up. It is now in our yard. It's in mine, it's in yours. we're only separated by blocks. It's now our epidemic problem. But we have a solution because we all possess something that I've heard at least 3 times up there, Arthur. We have hope. We have a hope for a brighter future because each and every one of us, if we left out of here to make a difference, we can. We could, we should. But will we? Will we walk out of here the same? That was too bad. Oh, great, someone is trying to do something different. Or will you see behind Arthur the legacy that he's leaving with his children, that he's turned it around? Will you see Black male achievement as not a segregated group, but an intentionality to say, yes, you can, yes, you should, yes, you will, and we support you in doing so? Will you look at one mother and say, what did she do wrong? Or will you understand that my son went to private school, that my son was doing pre-calculus work with no paper, confounding his math teachers, helped me get through my bachelor's degree because I didn't know where the X and Y was going? Will you see a young man who was loved at home, who had an unfortunate circumstance of having a father pass away way too soon? It was not on our memo. That was not our life plan. Will you see the pain that's in this community, that if we do not address mental health and mental wellness, I don't care how many gun control programs you put out here, if you do not deal with root, if you will not get to the root of why we are not valuing life, and we are sending that messaging when we defund schools, when we will not fund programming for young people to experience STEM and learn about all the things that they could do. We say yes to so many things. Yes, I'll have a latte. Yes, I'm going out tonight. Yes, I need a new pair of shoes. But will you say yes to this community? Will you say yes to those babies? Those babies sitting right there at those tables. Will you say yes to them? Will you come and give of your time? Will you stand by them and say, I support you? Will you ask them, will you take 3 seconds and give them eye contact and say, how are you? And hold it right there. And really mean, I want to know, how are you? The impacts of losing a child go beyond words and expression. I do not wear my loss as a badge of honor, but it is a part of my narrative. I have a son and a nephew in this room who remind me that my drive and my passion is about the legacy I leave behind of strength and hope. Because we all can do something different. We all can do something better. My son's name is Andreas Prince Keakamai Dixon Jones.
Thank you, Kim. And for those tuning in, OPB, this is Antoinette Edwards, City Club, Friday Forum with Arthur Davis, former gang member now, community activist, Erin Fairchild, Multnomah County Director of Defending Childhood Initiative. And Michael, I'd like to ask you to respond, please. Michael Alexander, the former CEO of Urban League.
Thank you. And I thank City Club. It's very difficult to try to collect my thoughts after listening to you speak about Andreas. But this room reminds me of a room I was in about 20 years ago. I ran a corporate foundation, and the conference board brought together a number of foundation heads to talk about funding they were providing to address gang violence, particularly in Los Angeles. and they had a lot of data. And the data said that they were making significant impact, and I think they were coming together to applaud that. But there were two young men in the room with us representing the core of a truce that had been set up in the early 90s between Crips and Bloods that they drove in LA. And they looked at all of us and said, I have not seen one bit of evidence of anything that you've done in my community. And I think the stark reality of that for me is that both of those positions had some truth, and both of those positions had some failing. When you look at data instead of lives, you don't have the opportunity to know what it means to have an Arthur Davis decide not what he is no longer going to do, but what he is going to do. He has invested in this community, and in many ways has given it much more than it ever gave him. That's what has to drive our work and our commitment to this community and to all of the children who are impacted by the violence that they live with day in and day out. How fortunate are we that this young man and many like him across generations have decided to stand in the face of a life that they were a part of and to say openly and publicly to anyone who will listen, this is not the path you should choose. And the other challenge that I would put to all of us, if that in the course of your week, you are not spending some portion of your time feeding this work, then you're not committed to change. If you're not providing a pathway for all of our young people to make a choice that is a constructive one, then you're not doing your work. And if you do not believe that these are young people who we need, we absolutely need, and who need to know that they are needed, then you are not doing your work. Arthur, I can only say I saw you come in and you walked in with one other person. When you leave here, if you do not leave with 100, then we have not done our work. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And this is a great ask from City Club. If you have suggestions for research or questions on this topic, please fill it out on the index card, and someone from the staff will pick it up. I'm going to say research opportunities. I'm looking at our Multnomah County Data Queen, research opportunities, and thoughts for solutions. That wasn't in the script. Thank you. Right now, we're going to open it up for questions and answers, but we're going to go to young members that we're really pleased that are part of City Club, and it's the Roosevelt High School. Thank you.
I'm trying to encourage our civic scholars to ask their questions. Tasha, would you ask your question at the microphone? Okay, I can read it. One of our civic scholars from Roosevelt had the question, how can we stop the violence around the community with children around them?
Can you read that again, please?
How can we stop the violence happening in the community when there are children around?
I think we talked about that a bit. What do we offer? Pro-social activities, some really wonderful work that we did this summer through Mayor Hill's initiative, opening up the parks, the recreation, to give young people opportunities and options and choices. That's a great thing, and it's still going on. We developed a teen center. And I think, look around and see what's missing. I know in the Portland Public Schools, and there is a Sun Schools, And what can you do to empower young people? Look to see what's missing from them that they may need and ask them, how can I support you? And I'm going to ask Erin if she'd like to respond as well.
Yeah, what a great question. So something that we haven't talked about yet that I definitely feel called to mention is that domestic violence is actually the primary way that kids are exposed to violence, more than gang violence or any other form of violence. By the time they get to be to about 14 to 17 years old, nationally, 27% of children in this country have been exposed to domestic violence. And I mention that not because it's a separate side issue to gang violence, it's actually quite related because we know that a lot of people who go on to be involved with gangs are also exposed to domestic violence in childhood. So if we want to start to prevent childhood exposure to violence, we also have to be thinking about other forms of violence and how they're all connected. And that means then, for those of us who maybe are learning new things about gang violence today, that we have to remember that this isn't a problem of those people over there, right? This is all of our problem. And domestic violence certainly is a problem that impacts all communities. And I think just being able to be creative and think about solutions that recognize how the problems are connected, but also how the solutions are connected. So when I hear about what Arthur's doing with his community, I think, especially just that event of Halloween, that provides an opportunity for so many different kinds of violence prevention because he's creating connected neighborhoods, connected community. Even if that neighborhood was in a hotel room, right? It's connected neighborhood and community, a sense of place and belonging, a positive male role model who's talking about healthy relationships, who's not using violence as a solution to problems. So really, those types of activities are not just about preventing gang violence and community violence, but domestic violence and child abuse and sex abuse. It's all connected. And we're all of our kids are at risk for it. It doesn't know any socioeconomic bounds.
Arthur, would you like to add to that?
I feel like as people in the community, we just need to be around and just doing positive things with the children, because it seemed like today, like, people don't even care, like, about innocent people, parents or nothing. They just wilding out shooting. And so I feel like it's all up to the law enforcement. Like, if I was a police officer, I would be riding around stopping every gang member I see. If you are involved in the gang, you hang around the gang, I'm stopping you, I'm searching you. But I'm not an officer, so that's just the idea that I could give. But for the people in the community, just being around the kids, showing them positive things, and like just keeping them away from high-risk areas.
Thank you. Student microphone, please.
I'm with the Roosevelt Civic Scholars. And my name is Mackenzie, and my question is, what is causing all of this violence to happen in our community?
I'm gonna have to take you to lunch, baby. Okay. And there are so many issues. It's complex and there are layers, and I really want to respond respectfully to your comment. There are root causes that we've addressed. And I've shared often before, no one wakes up saying, I wanna be a gang member and I wanna kill someone. Those protective factors that Erin spoke to, what does everyone need to feel nurtured and whole? And when you don't get that, you're looking for that. And it's been said often that that's what the gang provides. For some, that's the first time they felt that there was someone there for them. And we've talked about economic situations. When you're deprived of what you need. So it's a big question. I really love Roosevelt High School, and I can follow up with you. And you can help give me some solutions. Thank you. Now, I think we're gonna have to come back because we've run out of time, and she's giving me cards to tell me to keep it moving. But I'm gonna ask Mayor Hilt if he could just comment, please.
Well, I'll comment and also ask you, Antoinette, and others to respond, and that is, there are probably a lot of good-hearted Portlanders, I know there are, in this room and listening, who say, I support the work that you are doing and that the Black male achievement leaders are doing and that others are doing in this community, but I want to help. I'm a citizen, I'm not plugged in, but I want to help. I can think of a couple of ways that anyone can help, but I want you to expand on that. There are volunteer groups like Connected and 1145 and Enough is Enough. If you want to work on the issue, if you want to be present, do that. If you're an employer and you can bring in a young person as a mentee and an intern, do that. If you are interested in education, go to the leadership of Roosevelt or Jefferson or any other school in our city and say, I want to be a volunteer mentor. Because I think if you ask these young people, most of them would be interested in having somebody like that in their life. Those are some ideas I have for people that, again, some of us are in the work all the time, but for those who aren't in the work and want to help, there are ways you can help by writing a check, and that's a good thing. You know, support SEI and other organizations in this community that are doing great things, but you can also get personally involved. And my sense is, and I'd love to hear your response to this, that that's probably the best thing that good-hearted, progressive Portlanders can do. You know, there are a lot of us baby boomers who are approaching retirement, might have a little time on our hands. What might we do with that spare time? And let me ask you to respond to that as well.
I echo that. Your time, your talents, your gifts. And there are folks here in the room, Black Male Achievement Table, raise your hand, things that you can help with. Kim representing Enough is Enough, and young people here. So please see them after this. Now we're going to open it up to the question and answer portion of this program. And if you have a written question on an index card, please hold it up high so that the City Club staff can collect it from you. And we will now take questions from the audience. And as always, we invite members to the microphone to ask questions first, because that's one of the privileges of being a great member of City Club. So with that, thank you. First question, please.
My name is Oscar, and the question is, how can students help to stop it, like the violence? How can we help?
Oh, that's a good question. Like I said, just being around. And as students, you guys are in school, and you got a lot of things available to you, as in like making flyers, painting, making paintings in your neighborhood, something positive, just anything you can come up with, any idea, any positive idea that you can come up with, just make it happen.
I was just going to add also that if you look back at history, so many of our important social justice movements have been led by youth. So I think a good place to start is to learn about how young people have been involved in social justice and social change, and think of yourself as an organizer, because youth often have really innovative solutions to problems that adults haven't come up with yet, and we need you. You're part of the solution. So organizing as students, being members already, being civically involved is one step in the right direction. And so I can't tell you what to do, but I can tell you to organize.
Thank you. Next question, please.
Bill Dickey, City Club member. 2 questions. Antoinette, did you have that cool hairdo when you were listening to Gunsmoke on the radio?
No, but I like Chester.
My other question is for Arthur. I didn't, in your biography, I'm not sure I learned, where are you employed or where are you working right now?
I'm not working. I actually do a lot of volunteer work, so I'm still looking for work.
Ah, there you go. Members?
And we have great references. Next question, please.
Wynn Wakala, City Club member, and I'm also executive director for FAST, which stands for Fight Against Sex Trafficking. And I know here in Portland, the gangs are supposed to be where most of the sex trafficking is going on. And I liked how you said you wanted to teach men how to treat women right. And I wondered how we can help with that, how we can somehow reach out to gang members and not have them internally kill these women.
Yes.
I feel like it's on the women. Men, some men are just the way they are, and it's a lot of women that grew up and were seeing things, and now that they're grown, they think that it's okay. So it's on the men, like on the fathers, the uncles, older brothers, older cousins, or whatever, role models, to show young ladies how a man is supposed to treat a woman. Because, like, if a little girl is at home and she's watching her dad beat her mom up or hit her mom every day, I feel like that she's going to grow up and feel like that's okay. And so it's on it's just on the elderly and the older people my age to show the young ladies how a man is supposed to treat a woman. Like my daughter, I'll do all the girl stuff with her. I let her paint my nails, fingernails, toenails, everything. So, yeah, I feel like it's just, it's definitely on us just to show the kids how women are supposed to be treated.
Well, and Arthur, I also think when I hear about all of the amazing things that you're doing in your community, that you're also demonstrating to other young men about how men can have healthy relationships and treat people healthfully as well. So I wanted to make sure to give you credit for that, because I definitely don't underestimate the power of men talking to men about healthy relationships.
And just an aside, Arthur had shared that I'd like to go into the schools and talk with the young women that are being affected by this violence and tell them that it's not okay that the men are treating you that way. And it's not cool to date a gang member. And so I really appreciate that. He said it's always women talking to women and girls, but he said, I'd like to do that. So I want to thank you. The next question, please.
I'm Dante James. I'm a City Club member. First, I just want to say, Mr. Davis, I just want to thank you for finding your strength to be who you are. And also, I really want to thank you for sharing your son's story and your story. My question is this. I'm guessing you get invited to come and tell your story a lot. But do you get invited to sit at a table, mainstream or otherwise, to offer solutions, suggestions, policy recommendations, program recommendations, or do people just want to hear your story as opposed to get your expertise? Because you have a PhD in what you know. So do you get to express that expertise?
I think, man, that's a good question. I feel like people hearing my story is good because growing up, I never even thought I'd live this long, but I never thought that I could change from being a gang member. Like when you so far in, so much stuff done happened, all this retaliation, all these friends dying. And that's why I think it's so violent now, because that belief, that retaliation belief, and people believe that retaliation is the way to solve the problem when it's really not, where you just repaying evil for evil. And I think just people just hearing my story, it shows that a person can change. And so that's why I enjoy giving my story. I enjoy speaking with people that I don't know, speaking with other people that I never thought I would come into contact with. And I feel like that I could be at one of these tables if I wanted to. I feel like I could.
Thank you.
Thank you. He's a highly employable young man here.
And I think that may be an invitation to check out Black Male Achievement. Thank you for that. The next question, please.
Hello, Carolyn Harris Crown, City Club member, and I'm on the research board. First, thank you, as others have said, for coming here to talk today. Really appreciate hearing from you. As you mentioned, City Club is looking to see if there's a topic on this subject where a committee of volunteers could ask some questions, do some research, and make some recommendations that would make a difference. And thank you for reaching out to everybody here, because I'm sure there are plenty of experts in the room who could make some good suggestions. I'd like to ask the three of you, is there an area where you think the city could be doing better? And it might make a difference to have a committee of volunteers do some research, ask questions, and make recommendations.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask someone that does research to raise their hand, Rebecca, to connect with another researcher. Yes. Places that you could be doing better, we could be doing better. East Portland, we call it affectionately the numbers. And gentrification, displacement is real. Sometimes you know about the food desert. So there are definitely places that we could use you and your expertise, and I'd love to get more conversation with you. Erin?
You know, I was actually just thinking this morning, wondering if we could get some data about if there's some way, I don't know how you could quantify this, but trying to figure out the connection between lack of access to affordable housing and gentrification and the push out to increases in certain types of violence. I'm really interested in that question. And also, I think we spend a lot of time researching what the problems are, and just in general in the field of violence prevention, we can stand to do more research about what builds resiliency and what helps people heal, what helps communities heal. So more focus on resiliency.
Arthur, do you want to add anything?
I could. Like she was saying, the numbers, that area is, man, it's getting worse every day. And I live like right in the heart of a high-risk area. I stay on 160th in Burnside, and every day, every day is something going on over there. Every day. So I'm always out, you know, walking the streets, seeing gang members and trying to talk to people. And I talk to both sides, Crips and Bloods. A lot of people look up to me. And so I just be trying to put something different in their ear. And like if I could have people like, you know, people like march around, like we can march, you know, everybody get together, walk around and see what's going on and try to speak with these gang members, you know, before it's too late, because it just seemed like it's getting worse and worse.
Thank you. Next question, please.
I'm Annette Magic Odemy, City Club member, and this question is for Arthur. A lot of the families that we deal with are experiencing homelessness, mental health issues, alcohol and drug issues, and I'm wondering what types of support would have helped you as you were coming up that weren't there for your family? And Antoinette, and you can answer this as well. Thank you.
I feel like just being around positive people. Like I said, not just people that just talk about positive things, but people that are actually doing positive things. Because, I mean, I was told a lot, stay in school, do this, whatever, do your basketball thing. But the people that was telling me this was out there gangbanging, selling drugs. They got the cars with the rims and the hydraulics and all the girls and stuff. And, you know, as a kid, that's what you get attracted to. And it's just people just being positive role models. I think that's like the only thing that's going to help, especially men, because young boys look up to men, and it starts with the men. So I just feel like just being role models, doing things positive, being about what you're speaking, actually walking the walk instead of talking the talk.
And I don't want to lose this. If you all heard, Arthur said, I didn't think I'd live this long. Just be with that for a second. And many of the victims and their perpetrators, today is that day. That's the crisis that we're dealing with. I didn't think I'd live this long. And how old are you?
27.
That's a sad statement, and many of our young people are experiencing that. So again, we're grateful for this opportunity. Next question, please.
Hi, I'm Mindy. I'm from Roosevelt. I'm a civic scholar. I was wondering, would any of you be willing to come to Roosevelt and speak?
Of course, yes.
That's easy.
Yes.
Easy. Thank you. We will. Hold us to it. Next question, please.
My name is Keith Edwards. I think that what Dante was getting to, and I think what some other folks maybe have gotten to in this room, is that Arthur needs a job, okay? And he's got skills. And I know that somebody in this room, my question is for everybody in this room, somebody in this room has a connection for him to get a job as a consultant, because that's what he can do. And he can make a difference if somebody employs him in that arena and utilizes all his skills.
Thank you. A bold statement. I have a question that I'd like to read. How might our justice system look different than it does now if we want children and families of all racial and economic background to thrive?
Thank you, Antoinette. That's a very good question. It's a big question. I actually hadn't had a chance to mention that the overrepresentation of particularly men of color in prison is actually a big contributor to the problem of childhood exposure to violence, because Arthur's talking about not having enough positive, he had some, but not enough people in his life that believed in him and saw him as a young person full of possibility, and who showed him how he could achieve those goals. And every time that we imprison men of color, especially at higher rates than white men, we're removing them from their community and their opportunity to build connected neighborhoods and to be positive role models. So I think, I know that's that's a big statement to put out there, but I think that we need to honestly, if I'm speaking honestly, we need to look at the systemic violence of racism and think about how we can do business differently. And I know that's not an easy thing to do, but we have to start there. It's a big, hard question, but we have to start there.
And I just wanted to add, I'm looking at the table with Chief O'Day and Assistant Chief Modica, that there are some efforts under the way that address this very same question. So stay tuned. Some great work that they're doing that I'm really proud to collaborate with them on. The last question for you.
Edward Hershey, City Club member, thank you all for doing this program. One of our prominent members has been an outspoken critic of targeting gang violence because she feels that it creates an overemphasis on targeting young men of color. I'm wondering, Arthur, how you respond to that.
Could you repeat that question one more time, please?
Do you think that spending so much time talking about gang violence in law enforcement as opposed to attacking root problems overemphasizes and over-targets young men of color in our community?
I believe it targets men of color just because where they around, in high-risk areas. And it's sad just knowing that it's going to be kids in the future that's going to be doing the same things that these gang members are out here doing. And I feel like it's just on the people in the community, whether you're black, white, Hispanic, orange, blue, purple, or brown. It's on you to show these kids that there's a better life. Like I wouldn't have changed if I wouldn't have been around positive people. And it took Felicia, it took a while because I was still lost, and now I'm here. So it just takes being around positive people because you can do a lot for yourself, but you can't do everything by yourself. Everybody gonna need some help along the way. And I figured that out. I don't need no help. I can do this. I don't need your help. I don't need your support. I don't need you to tell me this. When that's really what I needed. And now that I got that, I'm here today. I'm speaking to you. I'm living right. I'm on a straight path. I'm taking care of my kids, taking care of my family, speaking to other children. And so I just feel like it just takes a lot of people, a lot of positive people to be around. Because when you get caught up in that life, it's hard to be pushed away, even if positive people come, because you so stuck, you so drowned in that life, you don't know nothing else.
Thank you for that. And I think this is an opportunity to address that. That was a great ending question. Focus on the root causes. And we say gun violence. Because City Club, folks, this is a cool game. And we want to focus on the root causes. So thank you for that. And thank you again for this opportunity to share another narrative.
We have run out of broadcast time for further questions, and we'll have to stop for the day. This is Greg McPherson, President of City Club. Please join me in thanking today's panel. We are adjourned.